Actually, I do.
You do not have the right to take me?
Yes, I do, actually. This is called a documentary video. This is newsworthy video documenting my protest. What?
You do not have a right to take my photograph or videotape me.
I think you should check the law because you will...
I have the right to photograph or videotape me.
As I said, you should check the law because my understanding of the law is such that within a...
I don't care about your understanding. I'm telling you, you don't have the right to photograph or videotape me.
Well, maybe in your mind I don't have the right to photograph or videotape you, but in terms of the actual legal situation, I believe that I do have every right to photograph and video you within the context of documenting my protest outside the Unitarian Church of Montreal. So you might want to check with a lawyer and see exactly what the law is. So here we have this young lady who doesn't want me videoing her or taking her photograph. Well, unfortunately, you know, there are some situations. If I walked into her living room and started taking pictures of her, well, that would be probably illegal because, you know, it's within the privacy of her home. But this is a very public situation, and I am documenting newsworthy activities, specifically not just my protest, but the fact that the Unitarian Universalist religious community does have a serious clergy abuse problem, and not just a serious clergy abuse problem, but a serious clergy abuse cover-up and denial problem. You know, it's bad enough to have, you know, hundreds of Unitarian Universalist churches affected by clergy abuse of one kind or another. It's another thing to, you know, go to extreme lengths to cover up and hide the fact that you've got hundreds of churches that are affected by clergy abuse of one kind or another. No less than 400 Unitarian Universalist churches have been affected by clergy sexual misconduct of one kind or another. That's an absolute rock bottom minimum. Some Unitarian Universalist interim ministers some years ago started counting how many Unitarian Universalist churches had been affected by clergy sexual misconduct, and they were in a position to know, and so their numbers aren't just, you know, pulled out of a hat. They literally counted church by church, you know, how many they knew of that had been affected by clergy sexual misconduct. So that's leaving out non-sexual forms of clergy misconduct. And they got to 400, and for whatever reason they just stopped counting. They might have been able to count for, you know, another 20 or 30 or even another 200 or 300, but I think what it is, they just got disillusioned, as it were. You know, when they got to 400, I think they sort of thought, well, yeah, okay, 400's enough, you know, we don't want to go further than this. But they might have been able to go to 600. They might have been able to go to 800 out of, you know, there's only 1,000 or so Unitarian Universalist congregations. They're currently claiming to have 1,038. But in real terms, I think it's lower. I think there's a certain number of the congregations that they're claiming to have that are not affiliated with the Unitarian Universalist Association. I think the number is probably 900 and something, you know, sort of the mid to high 900s these days in terms of actual congregations. So that's like, you know, 50% of your, certainly 40%, you know, upwards of 50, 60, 70% of your congregations that are being affected by clergy misconduct, clergy sexual misconduct specifically, of one kind or another. Because as I said, 400 is the low end of the scale. 400 is the absolute confirmed churches, and they just stopped counting. So they could have found more confirmed cases, but people who are in the know about Unitarian Universalist clergy misconduct do estimate that, you know, 2/3 of the congregations, that is, you know, 60 to 65, 70%, have been affected by clergy sexual misconduct of one kind or another. As far as I'm concerned, you know, if you broadened it out to all forms of clergy sexual misconduct, you know, including the low-end stuff, you know, unwanted sexual advances and unwanted hugs and stuff, that it's probably 100% or close to it. But, you know, in terms of serious clergy sexual misconduct, you know, that caused people to file formal complaints against ministers, you're looking at least 400 congregations out of not even 1,000 really. That's 40+% right there. So anyhow, this woman, you know, doesn't want to be associated, I guess, with these things. But unfortunately, you know, if you're coming to the Unitarian Church of Montreal, you're part of the problem because you're not doing anything to fix it. So, you know, having had my chalk slogans erased, I think we'll just reproduce at least one or two of them, and then we'll probably call it a day. But yeah, today has been quite a good little protest. I'm glad to have more evidence of David Rollert's and Stanislaus, whatever his last name is, president of the Unitarian Church of Montreal. Their total, you know, not just complicity in Unitarian Universalist clergy abuse cover-up, but their knowing and willful participation in it. So we're going to write down another chalk slogan. I normally don't bother running the camera when I'm doing this, but I don't want to shut it off right now, so it'll just run while we're writing the slogan. And we're going to write it, you know, a distance away from their ability to hose it down. Good day. And so if they want to erase this one, they're going to have to get a bucket of water and a broom, I guess. So Unitarian clergy abuse sucks, I think, will be the slogan. Yeah, it was good to get more video of David and Stanislaus erasing the truth, and just totally violating Unitarian Universalist principles in doing so. Just shows the huge amounts of psychological denial and willful ignorance and indeed cover-up of clergy abuse that Unitarian Universalists are guilty of. Good day, sir.
Morning.
So, there we go. Unitarian clergy abuse sucks is going to be the word here. So, I'd say today's been a pretty successful protest, and was able to, you know, get some Unitarian history recorded for posterity in this monologue. So that's it in blue chalk, which may be appropriate in terms of the meanings of the word blue. Yeah, actually, you know, the word blue comes into play here in more than one way, doesn't it? You know, thinking here, you know, blue movies, the blues, and so on. Yeah, blue's a good color for writing chalk slogans about Unitarian clergy abuse, I think. So I see my sensor's overheating. We've been protesting for well over an hour. It's a nice sunny day. I do have actually some other things I could be doing, and so I think I'm going to go do them. And we're going to wrap this up because everyone's gone inside for the service. So while I can still have the public seeing my picket signs and chalk slogans, there won't be a whole heck of a lot of Montreal Unitarians seeing them, except for the stragglers like this one. But we shall, I think we're going to do another chalk slogan. Again, out of reach of the hose, I think. Well, maybe not. Let's see now. I mean, I could write one over there on the sidewalk on the other side for people approaching the church, but I don't think I'm going to bother. No, I think we're just going to leave things as they are. What I might do is, because I'm heading east, and on my way back the other way, which I will certainly do at some point, I may just rewrite slogans when the sidewalk is dried enough to be able to do so. I also have to buy some more chalk. I'm running low on chalk. Thankfully, it's the sidewalk chalk season. I almost bought a couple of boxes yesterday, but the lineup was so long and slow that I ditched the idea. But I think, you know, today would be a good day to buy 2 or 3 big boxes of sidewalk chalk while the sidewalk chalk is available. So I think that's what we'll do later. And yeah, it's been a good little protest, and it's always a joy to get video of outrageous hypocrites like David Rollert and Stanislaus erasing my chalk slogans in their efforts to conceal the truth about the clergy abuse problem that the Unitarian Universalist religious community does in fact have, and again also the cover-up and denial problem that it has, which they're a part of. Just to wrap things up, we're going to have another look at the Unitarian Church of Montreal's mission statement here. So our spiritual community welcomes, nurtures, inspires, challenges. Together we take action in the world. Well, we just saw David Rollert and Stanislaus, whatever his last name is, taking action in the world by totally obliterating my chalk slogans which protest against Unitarian Universalist clergy abuse. So that's an action in the world that I think most people would agree is immoral and unethical and dishonest, and also in clear violation of the claimed principles and purposes of Unitarian Universalism, such as you know, the 4th principle, which calls for a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, or the 2nd principle, which calls for justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, to say nothing of the 6th principle, which kind of repeats, you know, calling for justice and peace and so on in the world. So it certainly violates those 3 principles. Certainly the 4th principle, you know, when you erase a chalk slogan and making it impossible to read, well, you're making it impossible for anyone to engage in a free and responsible search for the truth and meaning of that chalk slogan, because they're not even able to read it or even know that it existed necessarily. Clear violation of the 6th principle of Unitarian Universalism. So this is just another way in which Montreal Unitarians are basically extreme hypocrites who totally disregard not only the 7 principles of Unitarian Universalism, but various other principles, and you know, whose mission statement is so vague and meaningless that it actually could include quite immoral and unethical and borderline criminal and actually criminal and just plain evil behaviors. I won't go into that now because I got other things to do. I've already on several other occasions pointed out how this mission statement is so vague that it can actually be, you know, interpreted in a very negative manner. And certainly that final thing, you know, about together we take action in the world. Well, it's very obvious that Montreal Unitarians have at times taken action in the world that is A, immoral, B, unethical, C, borderline criminal, D, actually criminal, E, extremely hypocritical, and so on. Batshit crazy is another word I could throw in there. You know, some of the actions taken in the world by Montreal Unitarians, to say nothing of other Unitarian Universalist people. I was a little Freudian slip there with ministers, but yeah, a lot of ministers are certainly guilty, but it's not just ministers, it's lay leaders and so on. Yeah, some of that action is literally, or perhaps I should say figuratively, batshit crazy, you know, like insane in the broad sense of the word. I'm not saying they're suffering from serious mental illnesses per se, but they're doing things that, you know, can be reasonably described as insane. So just had a police car go by, so I think they're just heading off. I don't think they're bothering to stop. And they probably saw that I was pretty much wrapped up anyway with my picket signs in a bag. So we're on our way. And we had a nice little chat last week with a young police officer from Station 11 who stopped by, and he just very politely and even in a quite friendly manner just asked if, I was, aware of the rules and this and that, and I said that I was, and, we discussed a few other things, and that was that, like he didn't in any way try to prevent me from protesting, and to me that was how it should be, he not only just in a quite friendly and civil and respectful manner, made sure that everything was okay in terms of what I was doing, but he also reminded me, that if, there was a problem, that I could, report it to the police, that they were there to help me if necessary. Now, that's true in principle. Unfortunately, in practice, the police have not acted properly on a few occasions where I have called in complaints. One in particular where I was fairly seriously assaulted. Now, I don't mean I was seriously injured, but the assault itself, it wasn't just a little poke. The person in question gave me a body check that sent me flying onto my back. If I'd fallen onto something hard, or if I'd fallen against a tree or something, I might have actually been seriously injured. I could have conked my head against the tree which was behind me and maybe be knocked unconscious. So even though I wasn't hurt badly in that assault, it nonetheless was a fairly serious assault. And to make matters worse, this woman, or an accomplice, later actually called in a complaint to the police accusing